from Inky Fairy Designs, and I'm here on the Wow Embossing channel to share with you how I'm using embossing powders in my art journals. I'm using the Mixed Media Embossing Brush. This was designed by Seth Apter. It's a new product for 2020 and it's pretty amazing. This is how I store my embossing powders for the time being, and it works really well. I'm trying to pick out the colors that I want to use, and I love this trio called Cosmic from Seth Apter. Has some beautiful cool tone colors in it. When you purchase the trio, you get all three colors and they all work beautifully together. So I'm going to start by adding some texture to my background, which is something that I love to do with like texture paste or heavy body gesso. And I thought I would use the Mixed Media Embossing Brush this time. So I am just using it through a stencil, and you can see the applicator is almost like a, it reminds me of a nail polish bottle applicator, and it's the same concept that you brush it through or brush it on your paper, and that is how you get the medium on there. So using the stencil, I'm able to just pull out a little bit of that liquid, spread it around. It can be as thick or as thin as I want it. I've noticed it tends to get underneath the stencil, but I think that's because I'm pretty sloppy when I'm creating in my art journals. I am not going for precision at all. I just want to get some texture on there. So once I'm happy, I put it in about 3 places. I'm going to pull out the Blue Moon from that trio set, and I'm going to sprinkle it all along the places where I embossed it. I have a plain sheet of computer paper underneath my journal so that I can tap off the excess. Normally you see that I use a coffee filter, but for this, because my journal is quite large, the paper was a better idea. I'm just going to continue adding the powder on the places where it didn't stick initially, and tapping off that excess. Once I put that back in the bottle or the jar, I'm going to bring my dual speed Wow Embossing heat tool, and you can see I still heat it up from the back. I like to get that back nice and warm, start to activate the powder, and then I'll bring it to the front of my journal page, and you can see I go all over the page to make everything kind of warm, and then I'll slow down and really hit the areas with my heat embossing tool, slowly moving it around to activate the powder and get it nice and melted. And that's just the technique that I have found works the best. And you can tell right away when it starts to melt, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I feel like the Mixed Media application brush creates a thicker embossing look, adds a lot of texture, and I'm really loving playing with it. So once my powder is nice and dry, I'm going to pull in some of these new Dina Wakley gloss sprays. These are paint sprays from Dina Wakley, and I'm just going to spray directly on my page over the embossing, and it acts sort of as a resist. So I'm choosing some colors that are going to play nicely with the embossing powder trios that I picked out. So some teals, pinks, and dark blues. Once I'm happy with the gloss spray background, I'm going to pull in some of this light purple paint and add it right over top. Now, something that I like to do in my art journaling is use the same stencil more than once in different layers. This just adds some continuity to your page, brings that element, to the forefront, or just gives it some uh, grounding in your page, to see that element repeated over and over in different colors, different layers, different textures. So that's what I did with that paint. Now I am pulling out the white media gloss spray and adding, I'm using this chipboard piece, which we will be using later as a focal point on this project. But for now, I'm using it kind of as a mask, and I'm just spraying right over it. And this is kind of where I am getting the idea for the theme of my page, and where I end up using the words "art is your soul on view." So I feel like these are like these little souls, and then once I decorate and add the embossing powder to the main chipboard piece, that will be my soul on view. So I don't know, it's just a little kind of play on imagery there. So now I'm going to do some stamping with the Hickory Smoke Archival ink, and just adding it here and there. I like the Hickory Smoke because it is dark. It's a black, but it's a dark gray. It's not black, it's dark gray, and so it shows up well, but it's not overpowering at all. So it just adds a little bit of texture onto my background. So I really like to use that. I stamp it in, several times before inking it up again. I'm adding some of my journaling onto the chipboard piece before I emboss it. So this is a great thing to do if you want to put out your feelings on a page, which I do pretty much on every page, but I don't necessarily want it to be seen. So I write down all of my thoughts, and now I'm taking that mixed media brush again, and I'm applying it all on top of that chipboard. So when I add the powder on top, it's going to hide my deepest, darkest thoughts. Not really, but I mean, it'll hide my journaling so that it's not a part of the piece, but I know it's there. It's one of those hidden layers. So I'm using Sea of Tranquility, which also comes in the Cosmic Trio set, and I'm just sprinkling that all on top. Then I'm going to shake off the excess onto my paper again. And I absolutely love this powder. So I did heat it up from the back a little bit, and now I've placed it on my mat and I'm heating it up, and you can see how I just go all across the chipboard, and now I'm coming in and slowly moving my heat tool across the shape, and you can see how it turns from matte to shiny, gorgeous yumminess, and that's when you know it's done. And I'm going to show you here what is amazing about this particular trio. You get all of these amazing colors. So I have blacks in here, I have these white spots, and that is all in the embossing powder that you get in these trios. They're amazing. They have amazing, beautiful color texture in them. They emboss smooth, so it's, when I say it has texture, it's not a textile, touchy-feely texture. It is the texture from the way the colors melt together, and it's just gorgeous. So I added some heavy gel medium to my chipboard piece, and you can see I have put a acrylic block on top just to hold it down. I'm super impatient and definitely worked a little too fast here. It is not adhered totally yet, but in the end it's stuck down. You can see how it's just like wants to pop up. So while that is drying, I'm going to add a bit of journaling around it, and with my Fude Ball journaling pen in black, and not journaling, just marks. I'm just making some marks on my page. And then I want to pull this focal image out further. So I'm going to use my Stabilo Marks All pencil in black, and I'm going to go around it. And this is where I realize that it's really not set yet, but I'm going to make it work because that's what I do. And once I have that, I'm trying to heat it a little bit. I do love my Wow Embossing Heat Tool with Mixed Media because I can use it on the low setting to heat my layers in between, because I definitely like to, try to set my layers before moving on to another layer. I don't like to set it off and let it dry naturally. I'm just, I want to get it done. when I'm in that moment and I'm in that space of creating and I don't want to stop. So it's really nice for that. And then I use it on the second setting, the higher setting, for my embossing. So I activated that Stabilo Marks All pencil, added a little bit of shading around my image, makes it pop from the page a little bit more. Now I'm adding some black splatters with the Dilutions ink spray. I try to use this on the absolute last layer if possible. I tend to forget and want to collage after I do it. So you can see how the ink is not permanent. You can see how as I add that collage medium on top, it is activating that below, but it just, it's okay. It kind of makes that, those words blend a little bit more. And then, blend too much, you can't read it. So I'm trying to move it to a different spot on the page where there's not too much of that splattering in the background smearing around, so you can actually read the art is your soul on view, which is the whole theme of my page. I'm going to take that Stabilo Marks All pencil again, and frame my page, and using my brush with some water on it, I activate that, and it, you can see how it deepens up that color and just adds that little bit of shadow and framing around my entire page. So that wraps up my page today. I hope you enjoyed seeing how you can use the Wow embossing powders in your art journals and for mixed media, especially with the new mixed media application brush. I think it's just so much fun. I have so many ideas and projects to share with you using it on cards and more art journal pieces like this one. So if you did enjoy this video, please give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to the Wow Embossing Powder YouTube channel, as well as my channel at Inky Fairy Designs. And if you are inspired by this or any of the projects that you see here on the channel, please tag at Wow Embossing on Instagram and use the hashtags Wow Embossing Powder and Wow Embossing so that we can come around and see what you are creating. That is one of our favorite things to do. And if you're inspired by one of the projects that I've created here, I would love it if you tag me at Inky Fairy Designs on Instagram so that I can come by and see it and say hi. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe. Until the next video, bye.